Ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely huge. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. A federal appeals court late Friday temporarily froze the limited gag order issued against Donald Trump in the former president's subversion criminal case in Washington, D.C., allowing him to speak again, to again speak freely with criticism of possible witnesses in the case. If these people have worked with him, he has every right to criticize and utilize his First Amendment. He has every right to do so. The reason the judge initially didn't allow him is not to protect anyone. The entire media will lionize and champion anyone that goes up against Trump, okay? It's Donald Trump who has his rights continually trampled upon. He cannot speak and defend himself, yet the special counsel oftentimes, potentially leaks information to the press. Okay, you've had numerous publications, possibly the Washington Post and others, who have received information. I think the Times actually had a story years back from an anonymous official in Trump's own administration trying to protect the country from Trump. And oftentimes, Donald Trump is powerless to actually change the narrative. And what he does then is give his 2 cents, and then media says, oh my God, look what he said. But they amplify everything that they claim is reprehensible whenever Trump says something, and then they omit the context in which he says his statement. So they deliberately twist and manipulate anything he says. Then they cry that his statements are, belligerent. And at the end of the day, he's still up in the polls because the average American, most Americans, even if they don't like Trump, realize that media has an obsession, an unhealthy, irrational obsession with Trump. Hit subscribe to this channel right now to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications. Go to hagoodman.com. You can read this, ladies and gentlemen. To my super thanks, thank you. And to the Patreons on this channel, thank you so very, very much. Your super thanks support is greatly, greatly appreciated. That's below, next to the like and the share buttons, and the new Patreons. Thank you. I will have live streams very soon again. But here, this is from Jonathan Turley, wonderful constitutional lawyer or scholar. The judge steadfastly refused to recognize that either this case or this defendant are far from typical. The judge's orders bar Trump from making statements about Smith, his staff, court personnel, and potential witnesses. The last category could include one of Trump's opponents and former President Mike Pence. And Pence, I believe, is no longer obviously in here, but it doesn't matter. The point is, if he had people within his administration turning against him, he has every right to defend himself in the court of public opinion. This nonsense that Trump's words put people at risk, when you have Democrats stating in greater detail words that could be used to foment or justify criminal behavior all the time. I'm not going to even get into it, but you have certain Democratic politicians telling others to get in the faces of people. You have Democratic politicians talking about what they would like to do physically to Trump. You have Democratic politicians all the time fomenting and creating this atmosphere of discontent and anger. But it's always Trump and the divisive politics of Trump. You couldn't find more vitriol and venom than from the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, who, by the way, disowns friends and family because somebody they know, God forbid, voted Trump. So they can't talk to that person anymore because CNN and the Washington Post and the Times and Jimmy Kimmel says Trump is mean and bad. And they never cared about politics till 2016. How many people do you know that didn't give a you-know-what about politics since 2016? And then after 2016, oh, suddenly they're really, really into politics. Well, because Trump, And they don't realize they can't delineate between the media and public relations onslaught and who Trump really is. They'll make comments like, oh, Trump makes everything about himself. No, he doesn't. Trump has every right, like any politician, to voice his opinion. It is media that then runs and, has this unholy crusade, this completely irrational obsession with everything that Trump says. And they do this completely counterintuitive, disingenuous theatrical performance. Trump will say something that apparently, according to the morally superior media, is detrimental to someone's health, let's just say, or is foments divisive behavior or criminal acts. And what they'll do, or, hurts, somebody's feelings. And instead of ignoring it, which is what you would do if you really truly thought that what Trump said was harmful, instead of ignoring it, they make money and they distort and they butcher and they mangle and they completely fabricate the intent, the context, the meaning of whatever it is they claim he said. So they'll put quotes on 2 words or 4 words, completely ignore. Like, for example, Trump never called anyone fine people that fateful day years back in 2017. He never said that the 1930s and 1940s Germans, or people who were pretending to be on that fateful day, were fine people. He never said, oh, those are fine people. Okay? When he never said there are fine people on both sides, meaning the 1930s and 1940s Germans that day. He never in a million years said that. In fact, he condemned them in the transcript. And then one publication ran and said he really meant that, because that's, of course, who voted for him. There's this mythology created by liberal Democrats. Okay? And one criticism of me is that I go on these tangents, but it's very important. This tangent in particular is very important. This mythology around Trump is that, and here you have unconstitutional. Of course it's unconstitutional, but this mythology around Trump is predicated upon the sensibilities of morally superior liberal Democrats who are willing to lie and distort the truth regarding the things that he says and does. Trump never tried to foment a rebellion in January, years back. If you believe that, potentially, possibly, like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially, you're an imbecile. Potentially. Possibly. There's no way, shape, or form. It never happened. There was never an attempt by people that day to overthrow the government as doors were opened and people were acquitted because they were let into a building and walked peacefully around a building. Yeah, there were people who were not peaceful, and the government is cracking down. All throughout that summer, the same government going after the alleged Trump supporters who were engaged in criminal acts that day in January, completely ignored $1 to $2 billion in property damage. There were people, there were law students who threw incendiary devices at police cars. That's one story. They didn't get 60 months. Are you kidding me? But anything associated with Trump, oh my God, the government must crack down. And yes, it was a terrible day. That day in January was terrible, and I condemn it. H.A. Goodman condemns that day in January. Very bad day. We had that day every single day, unfortunately, throughout that summer. And Democrats ignored that. Anyway, give me your thoughts, but for political purposes, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. Trump is allowed to speak. Finally, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.